Right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending upon where you are. We're based in three separate parts of the world: North America, Australia, and New Zealand. I'm your host, Adam Haley. We also have Paul McNeil and Jamie Warner on the webinar today. We're going to run through basically the topic of achieving the Holy Grail of MSP efficiency. We're going to run through the agenda in a second here. So we have two speakers, Paul McNeil of YSync, Jamie Warner of Envirosoft. They're going to be coming up in a second here. I just want to let you guys know that we have a Q&A and a chat portion of the Zoom webinar. Any questions you might have anytime, I'll be on the back end to help answer those. We're also recording this session. We'll provide the slide deck as well in case you're interested. But essentially, we're just going to kick it right off into the first portion of the agenda here, which is by Jamie Warner. Jamie, say hello.
Hi guys, thanks for joining us today. So I guess just by way of maybe I'll give you a bit of an overview of who I am and my background, and perhaps Paul can do the same. But so I started an MSP in 2000, and I've been battling away to grow that over those 18 years. I started that with my brother, and I'm pleased to say we've managed to get that business to over 5,000 desktops and laptops under management, and over 40 staff. So definitely passionate about the MSP space, and in 2017 we launched Envirosoft, which is basically commercializing some IP that we had in our MSP, and we created a desktop and mobile app that replaces email support. So I'll explain a little bit more about that in a second, but Paul, perhaps can you give a bit of an overview?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, thanks, Jamie. Yeah, so Paul McNeil, and obviously it's founder of YSync. We're was an MSP actually up until about 2016. Ran a business called Virage IT, grew that from 3 staff to 15 staff before it was acquired by PowerNet, of about 3.5 million in revenue. We also, I'm currently still a non-executive director of PowerNet, and currently we have over 65 staff in 4 offices between Australia and New Zealand, turning over just short of 15 million. So it's a great story to hear 2 MSP owners really coming together, talking about something so critical to every business out there, understanding these key things that make sense. And for us, you know, when Jamie and I met, it was really talking about what was going to make a big difference for people that come onto this webinar to hear more about our story, as well as some of the things that we did and do in our MSPs to help grow and to get the Holy Grail, the Holy Grail of MSP, the 3 key things that we're talking about. So I'll kick back over to you, Jamie, and we'll get started.
Excellent. So look, I guess in terms of the agenda, we are going to talk about how to grow your MSP. We'll then talk about improving your customer experience. And of course, the most important thing is how to get paid faster. So we'll deal with all of those, and let's get stuck into the first one, which is how to grow your MSP. If we can go to the next slide. So the first thing for those of you that are watching, in regards to your MSP business model, is understanding conceptually the differences between break, fix, and manage. We all know it, but there's probably some key points that I wanted to make in this regard that I think are important to understand. When I'm out there talking to MSPs, and I'm now talking to hundreds of them, there still seems to be quite a large component of break, fix services in your business model. And what I think is important fundamentally is to get that building block created in a way which is going to add more shareholder value and increase the success of the business. And so one of the things to consider is that if you're still got a break fix component to your business, you've got to understand that obviously all the costs in your business are monthly, your wages are monthly, internet, rent, all those sorts of things are monthly. I'll turn off my video. So basically, it's really important to try and marry up the costs that you have monthly with this type of model. We're very lucky to be MSPs and to have more of an annuity base in the business. And my MSP in about 2001, so not long after I started, I actually realized that this is probably not going to work in terms of selling block hours and support packs. And I thought that it makes a lot more sense if I just spend 100% of my time trying to get people to pay a monthly fee. And conceptually, I looked at my costs, I looked at the fees and the support revenue I was getting, and trying to marry those up really just gives you more peace of mind. It absolutely helps you with the valuation of your business if you can have almost 100% of your clients paying you a monthly fee. And I think that's probably one of the things that we should strive for, and understanding that it does give you peace of mind in regards to the sales. You're not having to start from zero every month, or you're not having to try and make the clients actually use your services. So I think that's probably pretty obvious, and we all know that. But one of the things you may not be aware of in regards to business model, in terms of getting it right, is the need to focus on what I talk about, which are 4 key metrics, which is basically a concept called unit economics. And it's something that you learn, well, actually, I learned doing Envirosoft as a SaaS business. And what these are 4 key performance levers for your business. So if you're struggling to grow, it's probably because you're not signing up more business than you're losing every year. It's really not rocket science in terms of growth. So, but you need to understand your numbers, because if you don't understand your numbers and these 4 metrics, then it becomes very difficult to actually strive to hit certain KPIs. If you're sort of aimlessly going, I don't know, I'll just try and sign up as much business as I can, and then at the end of the year see how I'm going. Well, it's one way of doing it, but you know, when you actually set a KPI or you set a number and a line in the sand, you start to actually do the things that will enable you to get there. You hold yourself accountable, which is the main thing. So the first one I wanted to quickly say was you do actually need to understand your churn. And what I mean is you need to understand your support plan churn. Okay, so in my MSP, we bill about $250,000 a month in managed support, and we aim to lose only 10% or less per year in that. Now remember, you're always going to lose business. I know we've all got clients for 10, 15 years or more, but you know, clients get bought out, clients go broke. It's not always to do with the quality of your services. So you need to understand the churn number. So if my number's 250 and I'm losing 10%, it means at the end of the year, I've actually lost $25,000 a month in support. So it's really important to understand that number so that you can then set the next KPI, which is your new business target. If you know what your new the churn is, then you can say, well, okay, well, if I'm going to lose approximately $25,000 a year, I obviously need to at least sign up 25 so I can remain even. And what KPI do I need to do to actually grow? So in our MSP, our KPI is actually $50,000 in monthly support we have to sign up by the end of the year. And we can get away with about 40, but 50 is the target we go for, and we do everything we can. We're tracking it. We're like, oh, have we met it? What else can we do? What marketing can we do? Who can we chase? What more do we need to do? So it really keeps you focused. The next 2 is lifetime value. So understanding how the value of a customer over the life that you have them. So most MSPs actually have quite a long lifetime value, about 60 months. And it's important to understand this, because I think that we actually all underspend a little bit in our marketing. Because if you're going to sign someone up on an average of $1,000 a month and you keep them for 60 months, you've basically done a 60 grand deal. I mean, that's pretty good. So how much would you spend to make that 60 grand deal? All right, so you might go, well, I'm happy to kind of spend $5 grand to get that deal, because I know that on average they'll last 60 months. So that's an important one, your lifetime value, and it translates into your customer acquisition cost. So how much is it going to cost me to get that client, which is kind of what I've been talking about. So understanding lifetime value, customer acquisition cost, your new business target, and your churn are really, really important. So I'll pause there. Paul, what are your thoughts on that?
Look, I think you just nailed it all, Jamie. That realistically, one of the core metrics that you spoke about there around that MRR growth, a lot of businesses don't understand the power of that compounding value of that growth as well. So, you know, if you've got a target to increase your revenue by, say, $200,000, and you can use the rule of 72 to work out, well, what do I actually need to get in order to reach that growth target. So you just simply divide it by 72, which gives you that monthly growth target that you want to see over month in terms of what you should be tracking towards. Because sometimes if you're looking to increase by $50,000 or $200,000 a year in terms of your MRR value, then that's something that you should be looking at down to a monthly improvement of your MRR revenue. And we spoke before, having exited my MSP business, we grew that business from 1.1 million in 2012 through to 3.5 million in 2016. We had a 25% year-over-year growth of that business as we were growing. We were focused on that core metric, and that was how we're tracking towards our MRR growth. That became a core part of our business strategy, became a core part of our sales focus. So we're looking at how we improve that. Not to say that we didn't offer break-fix services, but we certainly focused on getting that managed growth revenue, because that was where we're able to make decisions around our business. It's easier to forecast cost. It's easier to staff and resource. It's actually easier to do everything when you have a solid managed services revenue foundation that underpins your business. And having been able to make that exit of my business in 2016, at least of the MSP business, that was a core part of the valuation metric, which basically underpinned the value, and of course helps significantly in achieving a positive value that you're looking for as you exit. So certainly the strategy around that, not everyone can make that transition overnight. It took us probably 4 years to really fine tune our managed services offering. And that part of that process really was understanding how we were selling it, what we were selling, and certainly got some great wisdom that we're going to share in a moment. The underlying factor, though, regardless of whether you're selling break, fix, or manage, is cash flow management, because the reality of cash flow in business is absolutely critical. So I think we often focus a lot on the top line. A lot of the market recognition is based around revenue growth, whether you're looking at CRM Fast 50 or other sort of industry type recognition programs that are out there. A lot of them are driving around revenue, and cash flow is a critical part of any business. So we talk a lot about cash flow management in our side of the business in WiseSync, because we obviously offer Wise Pay, which forms part of that automation of recurring revenues. But the most important thing for any business owner is, if you don't have a good control over your cash flows, if you're not able to forecast effectively, how can you have confidence in spending that money in marketing and sales? Because that's a critical part. So Jamie, your thoughts around that?
Yeah, look, from my perspective, I think it's almost impossible to scale any business if you haven't sorted out your cash flow. You hear it all the time in terms of companies actually going into administration, and fundamentally it's not generally what's on paper, it's actually just cash flow. There's quite a famous business in Australia that's just gone down the gurgler, and they were turning over 60 million. So they were doing deals, they were selling, but it was cash flow. They took a bit of a dip in terms of some of the sales, and the cash ran out, and they had to bring in the administrators. So look, it's the biggest cause of stress for business owners is cash flow. Absolutely, end of story. And getting it right is really the golden piece of getting your business model schmick and tidy and neat, etc. So a lot of people will say to me, no, my cash flow is amazing and I get paid on time. I'm like, okay, well, hang on a sec. Can you honestly tell me when you're going to get your cash every month? Now, if you can't answer that question, then no, I'm sorry, you don't have amazing cash flow. They may pay on time in your perception. If you actually look at it and look at the numbers, it's all coming in dribs and drabs, and it becomes very difficult. So when you start to run a bigger MSP, and any bigger business, but MSP specifically, because you're reselling a lot of managed services, you've got internet, you've got all these sort of things, you have to pay all those bills on time. And if you're having to sort of suck them in from the client, it becomes difficult. Now, one of the things that's actually happening in the market is, of course, in our world, I'm not sure about the US and Canada, etc., or anywhere else, but the distributors are actually starting to direct debit you. So they're doing ACH, they're taking your money out of the account. So if they're taking your money out of the account for things like Office 365, and you're having to chase your clients for that money, that's just a complete mismatch. And so I think that is one of the inhibitors of scaling, and a major cause of stress is not getting your cash flow. So what we did in about 09, 010, seems to we're doing a lot of things around the same time, but we went to every client and we basically told them, look, if we either need to hire someone to chase you guys for money every month, or I'd rather hire an engineer and put in a digital process to do this. And so we talked about, in our language, direct debit or ACH, and we actually offered them a small discount to come on board. Because in my mind, I'm like, it's all very well on your book saying that, say, for example, you're billing $250,000 a month, but if you're not actually collecting $250,000 a month and you're dribbling around and you actually cash flow wise are only collecting about 180 or less, then it's not a great scenario to be in. And so offering a discount, to me, I'm like, who cares if I'm offering a discount? Because if I can get $240,000 in the door, for example, obviously the numbers at the time when I did this were a lot smaller, but it's a lot better than getting the 180 or whatever. So and that does make a real difference to your business. However, if you're going to run out and do this, the way I did it was I created a nice brochure. I explained it to them. I obviously I did it in person. I went out and saw them all. I did basically an account management meeting, a roadmap meeting, talked about all their issues, talked about that. And this was just one component of the meeting. I had a nice little brochure about it. I actually talked about the fact our accountant had told us, well, you've got to be more efficient because the people aren't paying you on time. And so we've got to put a better process in. So I was open and honest about it and said, this is how we want to solve it. But please, if you are going to consider doing this and transition to more of direct debit, then if you're going to offer the discount, don't do what I did, which was to have no end date on that discount. Yeah. So, yeah, that was a bit stupid. And so we still have clients that sort of hold on to that discount to this day. So do it for 12 months. And the net effect of that is like, well, I'll offer you a discount. So for the next 12 months, you're actually paying less. And then the next 12 months after that, you're just going back to where you are now. So 24 months, you sort of gone nowhere. But if it means get them on direct debit, I say all for it. What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted to jump in because I think this is one of the things that realistically got me through a tough time in business around that 2012 mark. We had merged with another company. It hadn't gone well. Basically, what became a merger became a reverse acquisition. If you're interested in that, hearing more about that story, it's probably over a beer or a scotch. But for my business, which we had focused on probably about that same time frame, we had taken that practical approach and started having that conversation with our clients that we're moving more to a subscription-based model. We're providing services which are under finance, hardware as a service, software as a service, people as a service. Everything was as a service, and the reality of that was, I can't choose to pay payroll. I have to meet my payroll obligations. I have to pay rent. I've got all these outgoings that are part of the services that we provide. And we just changed the language and started the conversation around that so that the business owners that we were working with understood that this wasn't just a nice to have in their business, this was a must have. And a critical part of what realistically we were providing was underpinning their business as well. So the business relationship that we were forming at this point in time not only provided a strength to our business through cash flow, but a certainty around the longevity of the services that we could provide. Because we're able to, identify and illustrate to them that if we can't meet our obligations and that forces us into a position like administration or worse, liquidation, that will severely impact their business through the process that we just spoke about, having to shut things off. If we're providing wholesale internet connections and we don't pay our internet service provider bills, which could be, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, the reality of that service is it's disconnected at all of the endpoints. And that's certainly not going to be favorable to any clients that use those services. So we just made it very clear that this is about providing these services in a sustainable and a committed way that we were committed to do. And we couldn't be chasing payment in 7 or 14 days. So our business, before we moved this strategy forward, had a net days outstanding of about 45 before we started looking at this strategy. Your statements weren't even sent to delinquent payers until 60 days after the invoice date. So we weren't even chasing until 60 days. So you could just imagine the looseness of this cash flow that we had. When we started to transition to this, we got to a point where at acquisition, our days sales outstanding was 2. That's because we debited on the first day of the month. By usually the 4th day of the month, pending weekends and other sort of bank holidays, we had 95% of our monthly recurring revenue in our bank account. Now that gave us confidence around payroll, around meeting our monthly obligations of all of our fixed and overhead costs, as well as our variable cost of services that we're buying from third parties like licensing from Microsoft and subscription services that we're providing. So not only is cash flow the underpinning part of the business success, it really becomes part of your operational focus, because this is something that you should never trivialize. Without cash flow, your business is dead. It's the oxygen that you survive.
I completely concur. And just so we can move on, but a couple of points is that, we went to a new office years ago. The new office was almost about $20,000 a month when you have car parks in it, and we were ambitiously going for growth. And during that period of time, our margin overall as a business, our EBIT profit was down. But I, as a business owner, was never actually stressed about it because of the cash flow being so amazing. So now our cash flow, and I'll give you guys an example. And obviously my numbers might be a wee bit bigger or smaller depending on who's listening, but the point is that a lot of people go, oh my God, running a bigger business, too stressful. Well, it can be, unless you set up that right model. So here's the example of cash flow. We actually direct debit close to about $400,000 a month, which sounds like a lot of money. You think, wow, it must be amazing. Well, yeah, but our wage bill's like $150,000 a month. We're to pay like $50,000 a month to one of our distributors for all the Office 365 licensing, and they actually direct debit that. So you can see that if you start thinking of these big chunks of numbers, you go, okay, I get 400 and 150 goes out there and 50 goes there, but it's a lot less stressful. So I think that's super important. So just to summarize these last 2 slides, please consider direct debit. Please consider changing that model. I believe direct debit itself increases the valuation of your business. Please consider going to more managed and getting rid of break fix where you can. And certainly the 4 metrics, just to summarize those again, at the end of this, well, for 2019 as part of your goals, please understand your churn number. What is the percentage churn of your managed support is what I'm talking about. So therefore, plan a new business target for the year. What are you going to plan? So if you sign up, if you lose 10 grand a year, put a target of 15 or 20. What's your lifetime value? It's good to just understand that, and you can start to work out your customer acquisition cost or your sales costs as well. So in terms of marketing and sales, there's a lot you can talk about. There's a lot of coaching. You got Robin Robbins, you got all these people out there espousing all the things you can do. One of the things that I say to MSPs is that, in fact, if you can work on your proposals and work on actually converting more deals than you ordinarily would have, then you actually don't need to increase your leads. I think one of the things that helped our MSP grow and continues to have to sign up a lot of support plans every year just to keep the engine going is that we have spent a lot of time on our support plan proposal and a lot of time trying to differentiate ourselves. So differentiating I'll talk about in a second, but one of the things we do in our proposals is we do good, better, best. So that's what I wanted to show you guys today. The book you should read on it, if we just go back quickly, that particular book, Monetizing Innovation, is freaking awesome. I think it says now how smart companies design the product around the price. So I highly recommend reading it. It's got a lot of different strategies in it. It's professional services or products or car companies, whatever. It's got all the different examples of pricing, and it does have a wonderful section of good, better, best in it. So I just want to focus on that particular concept today, good, better, best, and that's a big part of when you're presenting of sort of differentiating your services. So there's a lot of conjecture out there in regards to how you should actually price. There's so many options, but that book talks about the fact that, in fact, pricing and packaging is almost the most important thing you should do. And so what I've got here is just a quick table to show you conceptually how good, better, best works. And so what you can see here is that the first thing to understand about good, better, best is that you literally have the first 2 packages close together in price, and the third package is actually what they call an anchor price, right? It is purely there just to make the other two look more affordable. You might only sell 5% on that, or even less. The whole idea is actually to drive people to the middle, to better. So you can see the pricing, $55 per device per month, 65 or 80. Now the whole idea is to say, in terms of inclusions, is to take out the one thing in good and put it in better that you know they need. Now for most of us, and what we do, it's on-site support. So they can still get on-site support. So they're still paying a monthly fee, but they have to buy a pack of time to get that monthly support. But for only a little bit more, they go on better, and it's all included. And what it turns out to be psychologically is that if the first, and I should have actually had that in there, the totals at the bottom as an example, but if the first package is, say, $1,000 a month, and the second package adds up to, say, $1,400 a month, but the third package is $2,200 a month, instantly, you've just made the first package look a lot more affordable. Now, if you rolled up to a client and you actually said to them, hey, this particular package is $1,000 a month, they have no context. They actually have to go to market to try and figure out whether that was affordable or not affordable. But if you lay it out in this way, the things that I found fascinating in this approach, and don't get me wrong, I did one package, an all-you-can-eat thing, for a decade. And I could never quite figure out how to actually lay it out. But what actually changed is that when you just give one price to someone, and just think metaphorically the other person on the negotiating table, they actually sit there and they sort of cross their arms and they kind of go, because what you've actually done is given them a yes or a no response. It's either yes, I'm in, or no, I can't. They can't actually negotiate with you other than price, right? They just go, well, can't you just do it cheaper, right? And so you inevitably just do it cheaper to get the deal. Whereas when you actually have packages, what happens is, and visually this is what happens, they lean in. It's fascinating. They actually lean in and they look at the table and they go, ooh, I wonder what is the right one for us, right? So they start leaning in, they have a look at that, and then as they start to negotiate with you, it's obvious that they can negotiate on the inclusions. They're like, well, can't you just give me that and that? And one of the tactics you can, of course, use just to close out this little diatribe is that you can then sort of say, you know what, if you feel like the deal's slipping, or if you just want to have it as part of your tactics, you can say, you know what, for you, I'm going to give you the better package at the good price, but you've got to sign up before this date, right? So you give them a call to action and some sort of reason to sign up. So it's easier to negotiate. It's easier to kind of have funky deals like that. And really, and probably my last point is to say, have your base cost to run your business as good. So you don't really care if they don't go for anything higher than good, because you've done all your metrics and numbers around good, making your business profitable. So what we had was, we used to go to market, and that's actually a number, $55 per desktop per month. We had server numbers, all this sort of jazz, but 55 was the number. I had to do so many deals at 45, it was ridiculous. So I was selling basically at 45 just to get most of these deals over the line because I had one package. As soon as I went to this 3-package approach, I have never sold under 55 ever again. It is fascinating. So Paul, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it really just underpins everything that you see most sort of sophisticated packaging now doing, is focusing between value-placed offerings. So, you know, again, we had the same sort of approach, but just make it simple to understand, and sort of that's one of the key things as well, is it has to be easy to digest and really understand what you're offering and what the value proposition is between, you know, inclusion 2, 3, 4, and 5. And certainly, as you said as well, Jamie, at good, you should have a minimum standard of what you expect that partner to have. So, you know, for instance, if you're providing managed antivirus or managed security or DNS services or something like that, and that's a principal requirement included in good. Don't be, you know, expecting them to upgrade to add, you know, security or antivirus to your managed service offering, because if they didn't select that as part of their, I guess, pricing options, then it puts you at jeopardy of potentially leaving their, you know, systems open to attack, or potentially, you know, if there was a situation where they got crypto locker and you didn't have a decent backup solution in place, then, you know, you would be in a situation where, well, you sold it to me. You want to make sure you're giving them at least the minimum quality of service that you would expect and want to provide as well as a service provider. So really good points of reference there. And certainly what I would suggest is just really understanding what those numbers are at that good level, and then scaling up from there. As you said, it's a upsell, get the thin edge of the wedge in. But one of the things I do want to say from your point before, Jamie, was if you are going to offer a discount, end date it. Don't leave it open. So even if you were to sort of seal the deal with a $45 user device contract or whatever you want to call it there, just make sure it's for a term, 12 months, at most. So, look at how you can actually approach that, show them the value, give them the opportunity to try the services effectively at a reduced cost, but then end date that discount. Don't continue to offer it for the lifetime of the client, because you're going to see if, as Jamie said, he's been doing it for a decade and he's still got clients, wanting that discount that was promised for the direct debit. We didn't offer any discounts for customers paying by direct debit. And we also charged through the surcharge for customers that wanted to pay by credit card, because they were cost to our business as well. So let's move on, because we're certainly getting some good insights there around those two key points. I think cash flow and marketing and sales really underpin a lot of that strategy of, I guess, building your business. But the reality of that, I think, comes back to the people. And Jamie, from your perspective, I'm sure you would agree, having a business of 10 or 15 staff, there's challenges at that size. Getting up to 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, there's changes at every stage of that process. So a great read is The 5 Dysfunctions of Team by Patrick Lencioni. If you haven't read that book, really get a core understanding. So maybe if you want to give some insights to one of the challenges you've experienced in managing people, and of course getting the right people in the right seats on the bus.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. And it's a concept, that particular concept of getting the right people on the bus is another book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. So if you haven't read that, please check it out. I mean, it's one of the stalwart books that you should read in business. And it's certainly that particular book, The 5 Dysfunctions of the Team, I just want to say it's quite cool because it's basically quite short. So it's not a big read, but it talks about basically a pyramid of things that you need to really function really well as a team. And the first thing you need is trust. And once you've got trust, you can have more meaningful conversations with people, and you can actually have constructive kind of debates and arguments that everyone feels good about to get the right outcomes in your business in terms of decision making. And one of the cool things at the end of that particular book is that it's actually got a little survey that you can run. So if you've got yourself and a business partner, or just a leadership team, your senior engineers, and you just want to sort of see if you're all aligned and swimming in the right direction together, I highly recommend getting the book and doing the survey at the end. It's a fascinating way to see how aligned you are, and it will immediately tell you areas that you need to think about in terms of the people side of your business, which is cool. But yeah, look, I guess one of the things, I mean, people in general, I mean, you could talk for an hour on that one. One of the things, thinking about this presentation, I thought I'd give you a bit of an insight in is just, I guess, flowing in from the sales side was just a couple of examples of what we did in our MSP, and what I think is a confusing area, which is the salespeople in your business. Most MSP owners are technical, have a lot of technical people running around, and then when it comes time to sort of adding salespeople, there's a lot of confusion about what you should do. So my two big tips are this. The first tip is that I believe the first salesperson you should get is an inside salesperson to handle all of your day-to-day procurement. And obviously that's 40 hours a week. They can run deals. We do like Dell campaigns every year, for example, where we go to Dell and we say, hey, give us a discount. We've got all these clients with desktops over the age of 4 years old. We'll try and get them to buy in the same period of time. So they can run those sort of deals, and they can basically ensure that you're getting that procurement done in a timely manner. One of the things about growth, especially around sales, is that if you can squeeze the deals into a shorter period of time, magically, you actually grow faster. And all you did was be more efficient around your sales. And so one of the first things you do as you become a one-stop shop is, of course, to sell all the desktops, the laptops, the printers, the routers, the firewalls, all that sort of stuff. And if you're getting engineers to willy-nilly do that, it's not their main focus. So having a dedicated inside salesperson, I think, is the right one. The right first step in terms of bringing in sales people into your business. And in terms of just some tips that I've learned, I think the best people for that type of role are some young guys and girls that have worked at places like Best Buy, or in Australia, Harvey Norman or JB Hi-Fi. They come, it's a natural next step for them to go to start selling technology to B2B, and I find that they just do a wonderful job of really being efficient and selling and pushing people over the line and getting those deals done a bit faster.
So it sounds like it's time to go and buy a new TV, Jamie, and be a salesperson.
Exactly. Yeah, you'll have clients going, why did I buy that? But they transition pretty well. The second tip I'll just say before we go to Purple Cow is getting a sales manager. Most people kind of go, oh my God, I can't even imagine, how do I get a sales manager into the business? So here are my quick tips on that. A sales manager in the business is fundamentally not a white knight. They are not going to just magically get 1 million leads and actually grow the business. They are responsible for, I don't believe they're responsible for the leads of the business. The business should be the one getting the leads and giving it to them. And the reason is because they should be focused not just on new business, but on solution selling. So you've got your procurement person internally, your inside sales, but you need someone running around to every client actually talking about their roadmap and where they're going and what they're doing. And maybe we've got to transition to Office 365. Maybe you've got to do this, maybe you've got to do that. Whatever it happens to be, it takes a lot of effort to have those meaningful conversations. So if you get the person, you get the maximum benefit out of the cost of that type of person by getting them to focus on new business and solution selling. You need to support them. You can't just get them in and go, do it, solve all my problems. Like, you have to transition to the sales director role and support them and help them on the support proposals and help them on tactics and all that sort of jazz. They're the ones that execute your vision and dream. And you can step in as that layer above, and layers are super important. So if they're having trouble, they go, you know what, I'll bring the CEO in and they'll help sort of navigate whatever that sales issue is. You need to invest in them more than you think. They are expensive, but if you get the right person, it really works well. I find the right person tends to be in their 30s, bit of experience, and someone that has worked in a B2B before an SMB. So think of printing companies like Fuji Xerox or Lanier or whatever the companies are. They've had the experience running around selling to B2B. And my final point is, you do need a little bit of luck to get that salesperson. It is hard. Do not get me wrong. It's hard to find that right person, but just think of them being a proxy of you. They must be kind of like you. You must feel comfortable they're out there representing your business on a day-to-day basis. So that's my key points on the sales side. So transitioning into Purple Cow, this is a book by Seth Godin, and this is probably the last part of business model in terms of getting it right, in terms of being able to scale your MSP. One of the things that MSPs really struggle with, and think about when you go in and see a new business deal, a lot of people think that when they rock up at the door, that they are hugely different from everyone else that's pitching for their business. And you've got to think about the poor old customer hearing the same story. You know, I've got the best experience, I've got the best tools, and I've got the best staff, and you know, it all sounds the same to them. So what do you think is going to happen when the prospect's trying to pick a new partner for IT support? They end up picking pretty much on price. Now, relationship's a big part of that, so obviously it's a referral and they know you. That's probably a bit of a gimme, and you're going to get that deal anyway, more than likely. But I'm talking about ones where they're not referrals and you're out there pitching and you've got the lead, you're doing Google AdWords or something, and you're trying to differentiate yourself. And so this book by Seth Godin, Purple Cow, he basically was saying, well, look, if you were to drive, there's so many messages, everyone's saying the same thing, you kind of need to stand out, otherwise people won't remember you and it makes it hard for them to make a buying decision. So he was sort of saying, look, if I was to drive past a paddock of cows and I saw a purple cow, like, it's a head turner. You walk out of there and go, oh my God. So that's why, one of the reasons why we actually built our desktop and mobile app was to solve productivity problems with email. But fundamentally, we realized very quickly, it's like, wow, this is going to be a real differentiator. And we've been selling that for a long, long time because it's a head turner. It's a product that they use as a client, and it's memorable. So whatever it happens to be, it doesn't have to be that, but whatever you do, you have to have something in your presentation that is memorable and is a bit of a head turner. And I think the biggest point to sort of finish on this is that if you can convert more deals from the leads that you get, you don't actually need to worry about finding more deals, more leads, which is obviously a lot harder. Just convert more. If you're converting 1 out of 5, if you can move that up to 2 out of 5, you're fundamentally double the size of your sales engine just by doing that. What are your thoughts, Paul?
Look, I think having a differentiator is a critical part of the services that we offer, and certainly, the picture depicts that. You've got, these cattle are all the same, but you need the purple cow to really stand out and be able to provide services that really drive differentiators between, who you are and what you do, what you believe in, and also the services that they can expect from you. So find that differentiator and really hone in on that and make it a core part of what you do and why you're different to other people out there.
Absolutely. So well, let's chug on through. So this next section, customer experience, we'll try and do this one in sort of 5-ish minutes so we can kind of get through to the other part of the presentation. So look, customer experience, you've got to think about this in your MSP. If you're not thinking about customer experience and transitioning to the new way that MSPs are actually presenting themselves to the market, and it kind of relates to the whole purple cow concept, you've really got to think about this. Now, customer experience is defined in Wikipedia, actually, is the product of an interaction between an organization and a customer over the duration of the relationship. And it actually goes on to say that the interaction is made up of 3 parts: the customer journey, the brand touch points the customer interacts with, and the environments the customer experiences during the experience of your service. So e.g. the physical or the digital environment. And the key point here is that it's important to remain innovative with your customer experience so that you can add more value and differentiate your services. And we wholeheartedly believe that this leads to growth via customer referrals because they're getting this amazing experience. So if we transition to the next slide, one of the things and the problems that we have as MSPs is, if we could go to the next one, guys, is that there are fundamentally an array. Let's just bring up all these customer touch points. So these are the 6 main customer touch points for your MSP. You've got phone, email, web portal, stickers, an RMM tool, and your team. Quickly, phone is great. However, if you're getting most of your support requests over phone, then you're intrinsically going to be quite inefficient if a lot of those are change requests. So we think phone's got to stay, but it shouldn't be the main way that they contact with you, especially in regards to change requests. Email's the same. Email is a nightmare for most people, and I can guarantee most MSPs get most of their effort via email. The problem with email is you don't get the type, subtype, you don't get the host name, you don't get all this relevant information that enables you to route the ticket to where it needs to be. So I actually think it's got to go as a customer touch point. Think about it. We are in going into 2019, and we are still getting customers to call and email us. There has to be a better way of doing it. The web portal, the PSA portal is what I mean there. No one ever goes there. No one ever uses it because they can't find it. So that doesn't work as a customer experience point. Stickers, that's an old school way, and I don't just mean stickers. I mean your mouse pads or squidgy balls, whatever you're handing out there. They're tired, they get old, tired, perishable, thrown in the bin. So that's not a great customer experience point. And your RMM agent, well, a lot of people try and use that. Well, you can't configure it to the client. It's not a great branding experience. It's kind of hard to find. A lot of people use their own icon that can never get found. So that doesn't work very well either. And certainly your team is a major part of your customer experience. So you've got to keep that. But wear the polos, make sure you've got a good experience. The key problem here is that, and what I'm trying to say is that most of these experience touch points are hidden from the customer. They're hidden. They can't see it. And most people actually end up going to your website to try and find your contact details. So fundamentally, there is a major problem that you need to think about if you want to transition your MSP to a next generation MSP. An MSP 3.0 business provides a much better customer experience. And this is where our app specifically, and we talk about in a second with the integration with YSync, comes to play. And we'll talk about that in a second. So customer experience, think about that for 2019.
And I want to just add something really important here too, especially with the way in which your marketing is becoming such a critical part of the way in which we approach the new generation of new business. Google your business's name, because that's usually how someone who isn't necessarily great on a computer is going to be looking for your company's website. They're not going to go and type your website directly in. They're going to jump onto Google or onto their favorite search engine. They're going to type in your company name as best that they can remember how to spell it. And normally what you're going to find is that you've got your competitors placing AdWords directly at the top of your search results. And that's giving them the opportunity to now reach out and connect with your competitors. So think of it in this way: if they're going to the website or they're going to, having challenges trying to find how to connect with you, you're giving them the opportunity to basically shop around, especially if they're having to get back to your website. So use, I guess the next step here, the opportunity is realistically about using tools like the Envirosoft IT support panel to be able to deliver those services. In terms of moving in, we've been talking a lot about many different aspects here. And the third part really centers around getting paid, and why getting paid is so painful is a similar sort of strategy, or I guess a challenge that's posed around how people contact you as well. And one of the things that we focus on, if you read, any one of the hundreds of different blog posts that are published around improving cash flow and looking at how to improve cash flow in 2019, often a lot of the challenges, the realistic outcomes there are making it easier for customers to pay you. And we've spoken about the challenges in the industry, about businesses that are folding and closing down. You don't want to have a closing down sale, because that's not a great way of improving and increasing your business. So, we're not in the business of providing our services at for no value or no cost, but certainly if you've got a challenge around how you manage business cash flows, then you need to really look at what they are. And the strategy here, I guess one of the key pain points is, it is the oxygen of your business. And we spoke about that, often if you read the underlying stories that center around businesses that have gone into administration or liquidation, businesses that have previously been visible in the market, that are going to the wall because of upstream issues, payers that are delinquent, vendors calling in the liquidators on them because they're not getting paid on time either. These are the challenges that we have in business that we need to manage. And the reality of what we do in a daily basis now is we've got all our costs that are realistically being squeezed by the margins that are reducing on the other side of our subscription services that we offer. So that's one of the things that we need to focus on, is as our margins are decreasing, the requirement for us to become more efficient to maintain our profitability, our profit ratios or EBITDA, is most important to focus on the things that don't generate revenue, that don't increase that top line revenue, but actually reduce the cost through as it filters down to the bottom line of your business profitability. And we spoke about generally the changing landscape. Jamie's been in an MSP business for over, I think it was more than a decade. I know that for sure, because it's one of those things that as we grow in our business, we mature and we understand. So learn from your peers and take that as an opportunity to understand what we've done. If you're having challenges in understanding, the opportunities in payment automation, as an example, and direct debit and the facilities that are available to you, these things make a significant difference for you. So not only do we have squeezing margins, but we've also got the big players coming down into the smaller markets that they traditionally just weren't interested in. They're building technologies to automate processes that traditionally had people sitting behind them offering break-fix services or configuration. If I think back 7 years ago, the prominence of Office 365 was quite low. So we were still selling servers, we were still putting Exchange servers in, offering mail on site, whereas now you'd have to be crazy to focus on delivering those services at a huge cost to the customer and low value considering what the cost of the Office 365 subscription is. So a number of these things realistically impact what you're doing, but underpinning all of this is cash flow. And cash flow is king when it comes to your business success and the longevity of what you can focus on. So Jamie, your thoughts around that?
Oh, mate, cash is king. My only quick comment on that is, what do they say? It's revenue for show, profit for sanity, cash is king. End of story. That's my comment.
Fair enough. So talking into, there's a lot of options out there in the payment ecosystem. And when we look out now, we've got, tools like Xero and QuickBooks Online that are offering payment directly integrated into the services that they provide, such as a pay now button on the invoice when it's sent. But the reality is when you look at all the different options that are on the back of it, you've got all these payment companies, and then you've got different ways of accepting payment, and some offer credit cards, some offer ACH or direct debit. But there's always this challenge around how do you choose the right platform to manage payments? And the reality of it is, it doesn't matter how or which gateway or what service you're providing. The reality is you just need to make it easy to access and transparent. And that's one of the things, that we really focused on with WisePay was how do we get our payment integration to whichever merchant service you want to use, whether it's Braintree, Stripe, IntegraPay, or Authorize.net. We wanted to be able to provide a portal access that would provide your customers with the ability to log in, see the invoices that they have outstanding, and make payment. But our principal priority was the most important thing was to make it easy to find. So, from an integration point of view, when we started the conversation with Envirosoft, when Jamie and I chatted about what they were doing with their IT support panel and how that was going to change the way in which that customer experience could be delivered, it was a no-brainer. We just came together and said, we have to get a Pay Now button inside of your portal, because making it easy for customers to be able to directly interact in terms of the customer experience into the place where your cash flow is impacted most without them needing to remember a username or password or to log in. So I think, with the integration between WiseSync's WisePay product and the Envirosoft IT support panel, it really comes down to that core function of getting paid faster. So maybe if we just step through, Jamie, one of the key areas here, getting paid faster is, number one, make it easy to find. It's part of the IT support panel. It's a button that you can publish directly in there. No need to remember usernames or passwords or anything to log into the WisePay portal. It basically gives them direct access into the system. So, maybe let's just take a few moments to unpack what that means and provide some sort of background there to those people understanding what this actually is.
Yeah, so look, what we're looking at here is a desktop and mobile app. Primarily it works, the utilization is on Windows. It's the most devices that most MSPs manage. But imagine a scenario where you now got an IT button in the task tray on the desktop. They open up the app and we now have a one pane of glass destination to get access to everything that you're doing. And you can basically customize this branding, the buttons, the news, the apps across your clients, which creates stickiness, which therefore helps to reduce churn. And one of the things we were trying to do here in terms of the buttons was go, okay, so now you're directing traffic to the app because they can't find URLs. We talked about all the customer experience touch points before, and they largely are antiquated and don't offer a lot of value and create productivity issues on your end. So now they are able to log tickets, take screenshots, you can do custom forms, you can do push notifications to this thing. But as part of that is the ability to then auto-authenticate users straight into the WisePay portal to get payment. And so it's really important that you have all those different payment touch points, if you want to think of it that way, ticked off so that there is no excuse. What's the biggest excuse clients will say to you when they haven't paid a bill? And I learned this from my parents, actually. They run their own business, and they always said, Jamie, look, the thing about business is just get the money in fast and let it out slow. Now, everyone's playing that game, right? Get it in quick, let it out slow. So the first thing that an accounts team will do will go, oh, I don't have the invoice. Can you send that through to me again? It's the first thing they always say. So if the button is in the invoice to pay, that's great. That's automated, and it makes actually a lot of sense. You've got to have it everywhere. But they'll always use that as an excuse to, oh, send me something again just to delay a day, delay 2 days or whatever. But if you can say, no, it's just there on the IT button, click the button, it'll log you into the portal, you can see your invoices in, say, 15 seconds, there's really no excuse for them to not pay their invoices and to not see it. So what's actually happening is it's identifying whether the user exists on the WisePay end, and if they do, it logs them in and they can actually see that. So if you don't want to show that button to certain users, then you can just create a different button collection and say, okay, I want these 3 buttons for these people in the business, and everyone else sees that. So for me, it's all about visibility. It's all about making it easy. And the reality is there's no excuse for that client not to be able to pay their bills and get stuck in. So yeah, that's my main comment there.
Yeah, look, and absolutely. The main touch points that you have with your customers when you send the invoice, WisePay you can put a button on the invoice to say, click here to pay now. You've got reminders coming out of your accounting system, the ability for them to click through a link to view an online invoice and to make payment there. The integration with Envirosoft really, or IT Support Panel, specifically provides that direct access to the information that they need when they need it. And because we're auto-authenticating those users through to the portal to allow them to view the payment information, outstanding, scheduled and past payments, it's easy for them to use. It's simple for them to be on the strategies around what we're actually providing. So the basis here is make it easy for people to pay, and you'll actually get the benefits of those payment strategies feeding into your cash flow as well. Now, one of the things that we often get asked as part of this process, well, it costs money to accept credit cards. I have to pay for an integration like WisePay, and obviously from an integration with something like Envirosoft. But when we actually break it down and say, well, what's the impact when we look at the true numbers? Now, this is getting into the details, so stay with me while I walk you through these numbers. If we had an average MSP business turning over about 95,000 a month in invoice volumes, and about 100 invoices is what we see is about average for our monthly numbers of invoices that we see syncing across to the cloud accounting systems that we support. The average day sales outstanding is 35.12. This is what we see in the real world. So if we're talking about 100 invoices a month, the outstanding is about 110,000 that we see over month, usually beyond 30 days. So whether you're giving terms of 30 days or 14 days and they're 15 days late or whatever it might be, the average that we see there is 35.12. The industry best practice for IT service companies, according to Service Leadership, is about 18 days. The industry average is, sort of between 28 and 35, depending on your collections. But what we see is more around these numbers here. AR turnover ratio is just the volume of turnover of AR, probably a little bit technical for right now to get into. But if we were to flip this on its head and say, let's actually process what this looks like from a automatic payments perspective, if we were able to collect 20% of our payments by credit card and 50% of our payments by bank debit, because that is the most cost effective for you and the customer. So we're going to focus more importantly on bank debits. Check out what happens when we start running the numbers. If we save 90 minutes a week in managing payments, so not only are we not having to chase customers for payment, but we're also not having to apply and manage the application of those payments in our accounting system, because that's done automatically as part of the integration that we have with the cloud accounting system Xero and QuickBooks Online. So we're talking about just direct in-business cost savings. Now, if we're paying total operational costs for an admin finance person is about $40 to $45 an hour when we factor everything in. That's $2,340 that we're saving a year just by reducing that 90 minutes a week. That's a direct cost saving to your business by not spending that time. Now, you might say, well, I'm paying payroll. Well, what if you're paying an external person? Maybe you're paying someone who's working full-time and they might be able to repurpose some of their time to more important tasks than chasing money that you've already earned. Let's talk about the opportunity cost. If you're a business owner and you're spending, at most, or you're probably at least actually, you're spending 30 minutes a week speaking to customers that haven't paid their bills because you need to reach out to them. You've got to keep trying to leaving voicemail after voicemail. You're having those difficult conversations. 30 minutes a week of your opportunity cost, time you could be spending doing more productive things, $21.45. The bottom line impact to your business is $1,419 back in your pocket. So we're talking about, after all of the costs that come out of the cost of acquisition, payments, etc., we're talking about you putting this sort of money back into your pocket as part of this process. We reduce from what we see as the current standard of number of days sales outstanding from 35 down 21 days to 1389 by implementing automatic payments. That's a massive improvement to your cash flow. In fact, that's $66,000 back in your business earlier than what you would have done had you not implemented this process. So these numbers probably just keep stacking up as we keep looking at it. When we start seeing these numbers as they factor out into the annualized cost savings, we're talking about an $18,000 net bottom line impact by automating this process. We spoke about how cash flow is king and how you need to focus on having cash flow improvements in your business. The reality of this is, if you're not doing automated debits from bank accounts or credit cards, as an average sized business doing $100,000 a month in revenues, that could be recovered through an automated payment for direct debit services like Office 365 or subscription for your managed services components, you're leaving $18,000 a year on the table. And that's money that goes straight to the bottom line. Improved operational efficiency, reduction of direct costs, improved cash flow through repatriated cash, especially if you're having to borrow funds either through lines of credit or other services that are quite costly because you're propping up the business through a cash flow service. That even just factors even higher the return on savings. So focus on I guess what these numbers are. It really comes down to, it's not just the cost of a credit card or a bank transaction process through these automated services or even the monthly subscription for it. It's the reality of it is when you factor all those costs in, it actually works out to be so far in your favor that the numbers, to me, sometimes don't even look real. But the calculator is based off actual effort taken to recover these payments and processes. So Jamie, only got a couple of minutes left, but what are your thoughts around, I guess the acceptance of credit cards? And
we do it, and I just think cash flow is king, and so a lot of people, we use an Amex card actually is quite a big part of paying distributors and so on and so forth, and so we might pay $20,000-$30,000 a year in fees on that Amex card, but cash is king. I don't care because I'd rather have the cash, right? It's what is the fuel and the oxygen of your business, and without it, it becomes very difficult. And so, I mean, with credit cards as well, if you're actually paying with credit cards, you obviously get the points. So I concur with everything you're saying, and I think just in the interest of time, I'll let you go to the next slide.
So I guess I wanted to show this slide generally anyway, because realistically what we're talking about is the common issues that we see when we're talking to partners, like what are they looking to do to improve their business in 2019? And it was amazing when we interviewed over, I think, 75 people at IT Nation in November in Orlando, Florida. And that interview captured a lot of information about what the pain points businesses were suffering from. And to me, it was like, wow, it's the common theme here is that I need to be paid sooner and I need to stop hearing excuses for late payments. And you control that destiny. Like if you're in the sales cycle, having a conversation with a customer about the services you're going to provide, have a conversation with them and join as part of that conversation the priorities around payments as well. That it's not a 14 or a 30-day payment term. We're going to debit your bank account on the 1st. What we're agreeing to today is that you are going to consume these services on a monthly basis. On the 1st of the month, we'll be issuing you an invoice for that month, and this is the services that we will have provided or will be provided to you. So that conversation needs to start early and maintain a consistency through the process. If a customer says to you, I don't want to pay according to your terms, you do have to question the validity of that long-standing relationship. That relationship is going to be one-sided, and certainly we all know the pain and suffering you go through when you have a customer who doesn't pay, especially when that payment continues month over month, and you're having to chase them for 2 months ago with the Office 365 services that have already been provided, and now they're 2 months late. You've just burnt the entire profit of that service in that one late payment. So realistically focusing on these key areas here. No excuses for late payments. Put your accounts receivable on autopilot. Get paid while you sleep securely. Receive payments by credit card and ACH direct debit. And streamline your life. Reduce those non-productive tasks. The numbers spoke for themselves, but the reality of the pain, the thing that we're really here talking about today is you're trying to run a business. Don't spend time doing things that don't make money. And certainly chasing people for payment is not creating more profitability in your business. It's impacting it significantly.
All right, guys. So are you ready to be a purple cow and to get paid faster? I believe Rafi is, because Rafi's, who's on the call, I see, has just signed up to trial our product. But conceptually, this is something you've got to consider in your business in all seriousness. It's super important, and I hope you've got some great gold nuggets out of today. We do have a group buy going as part of this, so if you go to envirosoft.com/wisesync launch, you can see some great pricing there. Save up to 68%. This is lifetime pricing. You get all 3 products. You get bonus agents. You can pick your subscription start date. So really, this is, and once you're in the pricing, you can kind of move up and down for life. So a great way to get on board and start using this process as a new customer experience, as your 3.0 version of customer experience. This is the future in my view. I don't think email's had its time, and I think with the WiseSync integration, it adds an enormous amount of value in terms of ticking the boxes of what we've just talked about. So over to you, Paul.
So, and leveraging obviously off a great platform like IT Support Panel, we wanted to offer an integration launch deal as well for WisePay. So if you are an existing WiseSync customer, you can get free onboarding up until the 31st of December, where we're waiving the normal onboarding fee for WisePay, which is $450. If you're not a WiseSync customer, then reach out to us obviously through our registration site there. So wisesync.com/envirosoft launch. That's where you can move across to cloud accounting. Obviously the payment side of it is just one aspect of the efficiencies that our platform creates. And WiseSync and WisePay together coupled actually provide for significant process improvements. We've seen businesses save hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in staff costs by moving to more automated solutions and providing for better outcomes to customers, better improved financial visibility, better cash flow management, and a lot better rest time while you sleep. So focus on getting those automated services in place, getting the systems in place that help to drive cash flow and provide you and your customers with a better outcome from both customer experience and also for you in the sanity of trying to run a business, which is not easy at times or most times. So we thank you definitely for taking the time out of your day to come along and hear more about what we've just launched, which is the Envirosoft and WiseSync integration to WisePay. So IT Support Panel connecting your customer experience all the way through to your cash flow. So improving cash flow is one of the things that I think we can say we really have brought to the table here with this integration. Sharing our email addresses here, so paul@wise-sync.com and jamie@envirosoft.com. If you've got any questions, please reach out, register via the website links that we spoke about. One more time, just in case you missed it, the Envirosoft link is envirosoft.com/WiseSync launch. And the deal there, 68% off your agents for life. That's if you're thinking about improving customer satisfaction, get on that deal, and it does end at the end of this month. So you do only have a short period of time before that option closes. And for WisePay, there, say $450 on the WisePay implementation, which is available via registration for wise-sync.com/Envirosoft launch. So again, thank you everyone for your time. And obviously this session has been recorded and will be available to those attendees who have registered. And we'll make sure that we get in contact with you as well. So thank you all for your time, and we wish you a great day ahead.
Thank you guys, and wish you a great 2019.